Here's something, Darlene, that might make you and our audience a little uncomfortable. Right now, someone's looking at your LinkedIn profile. They've read your headline. They scrolled to the About section. This is good. And then they did something you probably didn't expect. They skipped straight to your recommendation section. And before they decide to trust you, they want to know if anyone else does. And what do they find or they don't find there is shaping their decision about whether or not they're going to contact you. And viewers, we're going to talk about what LinkedIn doesn't tell you about the recommendation section of your LinkedIn profile, why it matters more than you think, and why most people are not using it effectively, and what you can do about it starting today. So welcome to What LinkedIn Doesn't Tell You, the show where we pull back the curtain and we reveal those hidden secrets that will make you more successful on LinkedIn. Hi, I'm Dr. Nancy Zaire. I'm a sales psychologist. I work with that purpose-driven entrepreneur who is growing their business but doesn't want to be salesy. And
I'm Darlene Petrie, lead generation strategist, and I really focus on helping professionals turn their LinkedIn into real business conversations.
yes,
And today, talking about one of the most underused credibility tools on LinkedIn is the recommendations section. And let me ask you something. When was the last time you booked a restaurant without checking for reviews? Or even when you buy something on Amazon and you don't even really spend that much money on stuff without scrolling to see what other people said about it?
so if you're like most people, probably never. And that's not a coincidence. That's actually psychology. Human beings are wired to examine what's called social proof. And this is evidence that other people have already done this thing or bought this thing and found it worthwhile. And we do this because it lowers our fear of making a wrong decision. In fact, it gets stronger and stronger the more we read other people's recommendations. When a potential client is considering working with you, they are quietly asking themselves, has anyone else trusted this person and been glad that they did? So when a potential client is considering working with you, they're quietly asking yourselves this question: has anyone like me trusted you and been glad? So your recommendation section is going to answer that question.
And that really resonates with what I see in the lead generation work. A prospect can be genuinely interested in what someone does. They're watching the content, they're reading the posts, but something's holding them back from reaching out. And often when I look at their profile, the recommendation section is either empty or has one or two reviews from years ago. That gap creates doubt, and doubt creates hesitation. Social proof isn't just nice to have on LinkedIn, it's part of what makes someone feel safe enough to take that next step.
You're right. And this is what LinkedIn doesn't tell you. There are actually two problems when it comes to the recommendation section. Most people think the problem is that others aren't giving them a recommendation, but the real problem is two-sided. The first is because you're probably not asking. Oh, yeah, I know. It's hard to ask for the sale, and it's also hard to ask for a recommendation. Somewhere along the way, most professionals decided that asking felt like it was pushy and aggressive, and maybe it even sounded desperate. And so they don't ask. They wait and they keep waiting. And you know what, Darlene? It ain't going to happen if you don't ask. And what's actually taking place psychologically when you don't ask is you're not protecting your dignity. You're leaving your credibility in a vacuum
Oh,
because Your profile doesn't look humble without recommendations. It just looks unverified. I'm going to stop here and ask you about that because you look at a lot of profiles. What do you see?
I don't, although I don't immediately conclude that a person's business is questionable, it does make me wonder why no one has stepped forward to validate it.
Yeah. And verification is one of the things that a recommendation will do. It verifies, it's a third party endorsement about you. And when you don't have recommendations, it does raise doubt. I said that there were two issues. So the second problem is that people rarely give them. So not only are you not getting them, they're not on your profile, so there's no recommendations received, but you're not having the generosity of spirit to give them. And this is also an issue because by not giving, you're kind of constricting your network, and you're not showing your character. And it matters because recommendations are a reflection about you, your judgment, and your network. It's not just generosity, but it also will raise your visibility across the platform.
Usually the asking piece is so real. I've worked with clients who have served dozens of happy clients over the years and have fewer than 5 recommendations. When I ask them why, well, they say things like, "Oh, I don't want to bother anyone," or "I figured they'd offer if they wanted to." But people who benefited haven't offered.
Yeah.
Not because they don't value your work, but because it genuinely didn't cross their mind. A simple, specific request changes everything. In my experience, most people are happy to write one when you ask for it right away.
Yeah, and LinkedIn makes it very easy to do. Darlene, would you go over the steps in making or receiving a recommendation?
Absolutely. Once you're connected with the person, and they should be your first level
Mhm.
connection.
That's right.
Look at their profile. Underneath the headline are the words message and more. Click on the More button. A pop-up menu appears. The third option on this menu is Request a recommendation, and the fourth option is Recommend. When you click on either option, a form appears that asks you to supply your relationship. For example, I was a client or we were on the same team. The form
Mhm.
also asks for your position at the time. Both of these choices contain pop-up menus, so it's easy to provide the answer.
Right.
And the final box shows you to create a personal message requesting recommendation or to write the recommendation. It's simple, and you need to fill in the form and then just click send.
Yep, that got it. It does seem like a straightforward process that could be done at your convenience as well as the convenience of the person that you requested a recommendation from. Now, let's get into maybe a deeper reason why recommendations matter so much. And this is where the psychology gets really interesting. There's a well documented principle, Darlene, in influence research called third party credibility. And the idea is simple. When you say you're good at something, people discount it, right? Maybe you're bragging or, well, you had to say it. Um, but when a third person, an outsider says it, it lands completely differently. There's no obvious motive. There's no self-interest involved. It feels trustworthy in a way that self-promotion cannot duplicate. That's why a single, specific, well-written recommendation from a real client can do more for your credibility than 10 polished posts about your own expertise. It's not just social proof, it's third party validation. And the human brain is designed to respond to it.
I think this is also why recommendations feel different from testimonials on a website. Anyone can put a quote on a landing page, but on LinkedIn, the person who wrote the recommendation has a public profile. You can click on their name and you can see who they are and whether they seem credible. That transparency makes a LinkedIn recommendation feel far more real than anything you could publish yourself. It's one reason I've always encouraged people to think of their recommendations section as a living reference list. It's visible, it's verified, and it's working for them around the clock.
Yes, that last message about working 24/7, most people haven't thought about the power of LinkedIn, the recommendation section, in that way. So let's talk about the practical side. If asking for recommendations has felt uncomfortable in the past, I want to offer you a way to reframe it. Asking for a recommendation is not asking someone to do you a favor. It's inviting someone who values your work to say so publicly. And that's a very different request. The people who have benefited from what you do, namely your clients, colleagues, and mentors, most of them would be genuinely glad to support you. They just need a little nudge and they need direction from you. By what I mean is a vague request will produce a vague recommendation. If you simply say, write a recommendation, you'll often get something generic. And I've had several that say things like, Nancy's wonderful to work with and very knowledgeable. It's nice, right? I mean, I do appreciate somebody saying nice things, but it wasn't compelling because it lacked specificity and it lacked substance. So we need to help guide people in writing a recommendation by offering a focus. And so I'm going to suggest a prompt like this. Would you be willing to describe the specific result you experienced after we worked together and what it felt like when we worked together? Now they have a framework, and the result is a recommendation that speaks directly to your next client. Now, a few other practical notes. Make it easy. When you send the connection request, remind them of what you did together. Don't make them have to dig through their memory, especially if this could have happened, a month or more ago. There's so much going on, folks. It's easy to just forget even what I ate for breakfast, right? Personalize it. A request that references a real shared experience will almost always get a better response than a template. And don't send one request to 10 people all at once. That's not a recommendation strategy. That's mass email. So reach out individually with intention.
That's great. Those are great suggestions. And to not send them out all in one mass email, that's perfect. One thing I'd add from a lead generation standpoint is think strategically about who you ask. Not everyone's recommendation carries the same weight for your specific audience. If you're trying to attract senior executives, a recommendation from a fellow executive client is more persuasive than one from a peer colleague. And if you're serving small business owners, a recommendation that describes the journey from confusion to clarity is going to resonate more than one that lists credentials. Think about the person reading your profile and then think about who in your network can speak most directly to what that reader is worried about.
That's a great addition to these suggestions. And I want to come back to the giving side of the recommendation because I think this often gets overlooked. When you write a genuine recommendation for someone else, something interesting happens. Your name appears on their profile. Now think about that. Remember, we're trying to raise visibility, trying to connect with people, expand our network. So people reading your recommendation will see you. And guess what? They may click on your name. And if they do, they're going to land on your profile. And that's why A thoughtful recommendation will create visibility in networks you would never have reached on your own, all because you took 10 minutes to acknowledge somebody else's good work. Beyond visibility, of course, there's the relationship dynamic at play because generosity tends to be reciprocal, not in a transactional way, and it should never be offered as a transaction, but because giving genuinely tends to create a context of mutual support. So when you take time to write a specific honest recommendation for someone, you're showing up as a person of character and generosity in your professional community. And that reputation, it's going to follow you, Darlene, throughout the platform.
It is. And I always tell people, if you're not sure where to start by giving. Think of 3 people in your network who have done excellent work. People who you would generally recommend to a colleague without hesitation. Write them a recommendation this week. Don't wait for a reason. Don't wait for them to ask. Just write it. You'll be surprised at how that one small action strengthens the relationship and often opens conversations you didn't expect. And more than likely, it prompts them to think about you.
I know. Candidly, I love to start with giving people recommendations out of the blue. It's an unexpected gift that really cements a relationship. And this connects directly to something we address inside the LinkedIn Profile Lab. Your recommendations don't just live on your profile, they're part of the first impression that you make. And when we audit a profile, we always look at the recommendation section. And we take a look at the fact whether you have both received and given recommendations. Are they specific? Are they recent? Do they speak to the outcomes that your client cares most about? Because a recommendation from 10 years ago about skills you no longer focus on, frankly, it's not helping you. It may actually be creating confusion for your prospect as well as the LinkedIn algorithm. The LinkedIn Profile Lab is where we help you see your profile in a way that a stranger would see it and make sure that that builds confidence and not just creates more questions. So here's what LinkedIn doesn't tell you about recommendations. They're not a formality. They're not a vanity metric. They are the closest thing on LinkedIn to a valued colleague leaning across the table and telling you, you can trust this person. I've worked with them, and here's what happened. That kind of credibility cannot be manufactured. It can only be earned and then shared. So here's your action step for this week. Think of one person whose work has genuinely made a difference for you. Write them a recommendation today, not tomorrow or someday in the future, today. And then think of one person you've served well and ask them to share their experience of working with you. 2 actions, an enormous impact.
And remember, your profile is the distinction where all of that trust lands. Make sure it's ready to receive it. If you have any doubts, join us at the LinkedIn Profile Lab. And the next one is on July 22nd, so in a month from now. And if you're interested, comment lab to be placed to be put on the waiting list.
Good. Okay, so Darlene, we've covered what recommendations really do, why people don't ask for them, why third-party credibility beats self-promotion, excuse me, every time, how to ask for a useful recommendation, and why giving them is a strategy as much as a gesture. We love hearing from you. Drop a comment below and let us know. Do you have any up-to-date recommendations on your profile? When was the last one you gave? To your sales and business success, Nancy Zaire, sales psychologist, helping purpose-driven entrepreneurs become confident business owners without being pushy, aggressive, and salesy.
Darlene Petrie, lead generation strategist, helping professionals turn LinkedIn visibility into real business conversations.
And we'll see you next week.